Happy Free Workout Friday. I'm sorry about my voice. As you can hear, I am battling a bit of a cold. So anyways, this is a low impact workout that you can do from home. First exercise, a walk over plank push-up. Bring one hand to the center of the mat, step the other hand out wider than shoulder width apart, and perform a push-up. Try to keep a nice long line from the crown of the head all the way down to the heels. If a full push-up is more than your body needs today, you can lower down to your knees for a modified push-up. Again, bring one hand to the center of the mat, another off, perform a push-up, and switch over to the other side. We're doing 10 push-ups in total. You also have the option to just do these stationary, which I show right here. Next exercise, we will use a band. Bands are always optional. If you don't have one, don't worry about it. You can do these without. The band is going to put extra resistance in the exercise. Put the band directly under your kneecap and grab your dumbbells. Heels will be hip width apart, nice and close to your hips. Press down through your heels. You can even pick up your toes off the ground a little bit. You're going to hold a bridge, so you're squeezing your glutes up and your hamstrings, and then perform a chest fly. That's hard for me to say. So keeping a soft bend in the elbows, opening the weights out to the side, directly over the chest. Try to avoid doing these over your face. You will target your chest more. Breathe out when you bring them in. A modification, you could keep your hips on the ground and perform your chest flies. Let's do 15 in total. Next up, a kneeling thrust. So you'll be on your knees and shins with a shoulder press. With your dumbbells in your hand, keep your elbows at shoulder height. Lift up into a thrust, using the glutes to bring you up nice and high, and then perform a shoulder press at the top of the move. So you're pressing up and slightly over the forehead with your dumbbells. Always remember to keep a nice tight core, so a good foundation, by drawing your belly button up and in. Always exhale on the press and rise, and inhale on the way down. A modification would be to stay on with your hips on your heels, rather than doing the thrust as well. Also, if this bothers your knees, you could always do your shoulder press standing. Next up, lying bicep curl. The more advanced modification, you're going to have your elbows hovering off the ground, nice and tight to the side of your body. So you'll extend your dumbbells out to the side and then curl in towards your shoulders, keeping again the elbows nice and tight to your side and lifted off the ground. Your core will stay nice and tight and your lower back glued to the ground. This way you can't use momentum to curl your dumbbells. It's all bicep. For more of a beginner modification, you can always bring your elbows down to the ground so that they're supported. Perform 15 bicep curls. Next up, keeping the band around the knees. You're going to have one dumbbell. Extend the opposite leg that you'll be rowing with and check in that your hips are level. You can simply just touch your lower back to make sure that you're not tipped to one side. Your shoulders should be level as well. With the one leg extended and the glute engaged, pressing out through the bottom of the heel, you'll row the dumbbell up. This will use your back muscles. Keep the elbow nice and tight to your side. Breathe out on the lift and perform 15 on one side before you switch to the other. If the band is more than your body needs, you can always just take the band off. It will still be challenging to hold your leg up because you'll be using a lot of your back body strength. The band will give it an extra resistance to make it even harder. Next up, tricep kickback, donkey kick combo with the band around your knees still and your one leg bent, opposite leg, opposite arm. So starting with the right arm, keeping the bicep glued to the side, kicking the forearm back with a straight wrist to activate your triceps. If combining both is just too much, you could always do 15 kickbacks and then 15 tricep kickbacks. If combining them is just too much, sometimes it's hard to coordinate two movements at once. Just do your best and let that be enough. Again, 15 on each side. Really pressing through the heel to activate the glutes. And again, keeping that bicep glued to the side of your body and really squeezing your tricep on the way up. Next up, we're gonna lay on the ground. We'll check in that our heels are together, toes slightly pointed out to the side. With a band around the knees, and remember, it's okay if you don't have a band, that's fine. You're gonna extend the hips off of the ground and hold them off the ground, opening the knees out for an abduction, so away from the body, 15 times, keeping your hips nice and high, the glutes engaged, and your lower back pressed away from the ground. Do these nice and slow, hold out for about a second. So next up, in the same froggy position, so the heels pressed together, you're gonna open your legs so that there's constant tension on the band around your knees. Or if you don't have the band, that's okay. Just do it without. Hold your knees out and then perform a glute bridge upward. So you're bringing your hips all the way down, exhaling and pressing through the heels to lift the glutes, hamstrings, and lower back up off the ground. Perform 15 of these in a row. If you have a band, now it's time to take it off. Free yourself from the band. Here we're gonna do a plank variation of table and full plank. So you'll step out with both legs and then step in, but keep your knees hovering off the ground. The knees will come directly under the hips and then press out into a full plank. Hands directly under shoulders, nice long line from the crown of the head all the way down to the heels when you're in full plank. In table plank, you're remembering to keep your knees directly under the hips with a nice neutral spine. Always option to just hold table plank or to just hold full plank. 30 seconds for each of those, or step in and out of table 10 times. Next step, we're going to lay on the ground for a little bit of deep core work. So bring your knees directly over your hips, and then I want you to picture your hips tipping upward. So you're taking your tailbone off the ground so that your lower back glues to the ground. You'll feel what I'm talking about if you do it properly. So that lower back is pressed into the ground, tailbone off, keeping a 90-degree angle in both legs. You're going to slowly start and lower with the right leg down towards the ground, crunching up and over with your elbow towards your knee. Your hands are interlaced behind your head, but you may have seen you do have the option, if you feel like you're pulling on your neck too much, to just hold your hands at your ears, at your fingertips at your ears rather. Go slower than you want to go for this one. Your core is going to shake and burn, I promise you. Nice and slow, intending for the opposite elbow to touch the opposite knee, while the other one keeps the 90-degree bend and goes towards the ground. Last but not least, 10 toe reaches, breathing out on the way up. And make sure you really use a forceful breath for this. And then that's it. Take a 30-second rest and repeat.